Welcome again to the Splice Poetry Series. All right. And as always, I know I kind of gush over the audience quite a bit, but thank you so much for coming and for being a part of this experience. We really couldn't do it without you, truly. It's sort of what makes it happen. So we're not exactly sure what happened to our first reader, which is fine, because for the first time we had sort of our first dual feature readers with Jessica Alexander and Khi Nao. And so I wrote up a little introduction out of one of the pieces that they will be reading from. And so I'll read that to you now, and we'll let them take the mic. We hear this phrase often about a work that, quote, defies categorization, which more often than not is used to describe what in actuality is one that unifies categorization. That Woman Could Be You, from which V and Jessica will read this evening, is a book, is a queer love poem, an elegy, a newspaper article, a sports commentary, a collaborative diary, a lyric poem, a narrative one, a dialogue, a pop culture criticism, pastiche of Netflix and Rage, a 21st century period piece. In more than one poem, the menses of these dual speakers are syncopated, and as such their stars are aligned, whether that be the ancient dim-lit fates hanging pre-owned in the night sky above us, or those that we see in a flurry of bodily pain. In spite of the ceaseless obstacles of the exterior world, chronic pain, homophobia, racism, sexual assault, the list unfortunately goes on, interiority gets not in their face, but in their venomous heads, quote, written in the quiet, iridescent recess of my idleness, in spite of an environment whose, quote, dark clouds, like fat sacks of scrotum, are waiting to burst their seams or semen open. These deathly systems, who at times seem as ubiquitous as the universe itself, are tracked all the way back on Milton's bullshit. Quote, meanwhile, or before all of this, Satan raped his daughter Sin, and she became pregnant with Death, who eventually would also rape her, begetting chaos. It was also interesting. I did a wonderful job parallel parking, and you told me so. Is this not a radical act? A nice park job in the face of death? It's no wonder one of the speakers notes how far we've had to come just to turn 40. That Woman Could Be You tracks the mundane consumptions of dailiness, and to do such a thing is in fact, as these pieces prove, radical. And furthermore, disprove such acts as mundane. The books we read, the shows we watch, the food we eat, the papers we crave, the drugs we smoke or don't, the company we keep, the trains we hop on, the Ubers we climb into, the elevator buttons we push, the arcade games we thumb our quarters into, the teams we root for, the cities we live in, the towns we leave behind, the gods we worship, the stuff we suffer. To render these with purpose, to connect these to the larger systems that too often bully pulpit us around under constant gaze, presence, imminent threat of assault. It's no wonder that a speaker wonders. I wonder, on nights like this, if you would mutely climb inside my submarine and sit beside me until all the speedboats sped past. Jean-Paul Sartre of Jean Genet's absurdist works metaphorized his theatrical modality as that of a whirligig, that child's device which spins so fast that it defies, or perhaps unifies, gravity and blurs sides. That Woman Could Be You is far from an absurdist work, though the world we inhabit is definitively so. As one speaker notices from an airplane window, quote, they're fixing our plane with duct tape. And Jessica and V are fixing our plainness with a poetics that calls us to consider the situation with as much thought as we can muster. The text of this book typographically throbs on the page, a pulse, varying in font size, columned as the Roman manner in which we get our information, and here we have two distinctive speakers who rear a singular head. The effect is topsy-turvy, spellbinding even, as they ask of themselves, I loved a person, and what is a person? Their whirligig of love is about to get us closer to the answer. So strap in, y'all. Here is the whirligig. The books we eat, the shows we leave behind, the food we watch, the papers we keep, the drugs we push, the company we climb into, the trains we grade, the Ubers we leave behind, the elevator buttons we worship, the arcade games we live in, the teams we read, the cities we root for, the towns we smoke or don't, the gods we thumb our quarters into, the suffering we stuff full of ourselves. Jessica Alexander is a humanitarian aid professional with experience in operations, evaluation, and policy. Her career includes global deployments spanning Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. She's conducted large-scale evaluations, assessments, and policy research for the UN, Red Cross, and various NGOs on a range of humanitarian issues including child protection, shelter, emergency education, coordination, accountability, and humanitarian effectiveness. She has also overseen programming in Sudan, South Sudan, and Haiti. Jessica is a two-time Fulbright grantee who received the award to research Japan's approach to disaster risk reduction in 2019 and the use of child soldiers in Sierra Leone in 2006. She received a Master of Public Health and a Master of International Affairs from Columbia University. She is an editor at The New Humanitarian and teaches humanitarian efforts at numerous global universities. She has authored policy papers and mainstream articles about the humanitarian sector and is the author of Chasing Chaos, My Decade in and Out of Humanitarian Aid. Khi Nao is the author of 6 poetry collections, Fish Carcass, A Bell Curve is a Pregnant Straight Line, Human Tetris, Sheep Machine, Umbilical Hospital, The Old Philosopher, and the short stories collection A Brief Alphabet of Torture, the novel Fish in Exile, and the novel Fish in Exile. Her work includes poetry, fiction, film, and cross-genre collaboration. Her first play, Waiting for God, is out of Apocalypse Party in January 22. She was the Fall 2019 Fellow at the Black Mountain Institute. Everyone, please give it up for Khi Nao and Jessica Alexander, although I think they're going to split. Are you both coming up? Or are we taking turns? However y'all want to shake.
Thank you so much, Henry, for that wonderful and thoughtful introduction. And thank you, both Henry and Rodrigo, for having us. Unfortunately, I can't take credit for that Fulbright, those 2 Fulbrights. That was the Jessica Alexander that comes up when you first Google Jessica Alexander. We're kind of in competition. She's winning. All right. So I'm going to read from this collaboration with V, and as I told Henry earlier tonight, it's really hard to kind of attribute anything to me or to V when I'm reading from this, because what our process was such that sometimes V would write in my point of view, sometimes I'd write in V's point of view, and then when we were editing it, we didn't really even know who had written what originally. So I'll just read and know that this is kind of the product of both of our work. I might get this a little bit lower. Thank you. That's great. Can people hear me? Okay. For all I know, my brother could have been a vampire, but he drove a blue convertible, which he almost gave me and almost drove away from me, and Marineland, where we rode Dragon Mountain 20 times in a row, and I told him we can scream with impunity in public, and I love it. I said, don't you love it? We fought that afternoon, and at his funeral, someone said he loved Christmas, and I thought that is not true, because I do not want memory to be a myth. I become imperious. The New York Times obituary called him a gay rights activist. Was that entirely accurate? I crossed my arms over my chest, so privately proprietary, so vigilant, as if I stood to lose something else. Daphne said his novel was brilliant and unfinished. I knew nothing of it. In high school, he made Hannah so mad she kicked him out of her house with her leg. Jill said the red fern made her cry in 5th grade, and the new boy, whose desk was beside hers, touched her shoulder and told her he was sad too. Shruti said she would not be herself without his friendship, and yes, he was a terrible house guest. We shared a room, and by the time I'd arrived home for the holiday, he'd eaten snacks in both our beds. His grandfather died hiding complimentary apples under his mattress. He was rear-ended by an hysterical kid who'd intended to hijack him. Jim fed him snacks, and they waited in the cool interior of his convertible. He once fell into razor wire, God knows why. He crashed his motorcycle in the rain while driving down a winding mountainside. He called once from the parking lot of a motorcycle safety class. He'd gone inside and come back out because the other men were heavy-set and dressed in fatigues and bandanas. They had ponytails and tattoos. You know the type I'm describing, right? He said. He had an olive multi-pocket army jacket in the trunk of his car. Should I put it on? He asked. I am tempted to say I sent care packages to Delhi. I don't remember sending anything. My mother sent packages. My brother paid bribes to receive. Why would the ashes be his? The air in Delhi was thick with smoke and ash. I saw it on Democracy Now! How odd to think. Does it matter whose ashes they sent? I loved a person, and what is a person? I owed him a phone call. Laura said he sounded lucid. Because he had not died yet, I thought he'd live. I said I'd tell Sally. She lived in our childhood neighborhood. Her kids had all gone off to college. She taught Jim gardening and origami, and she called him her friend. Back then, he preferred grown women to boys, who pulled him by the legs from minivans, where he'd hide from them. I asked Sally to tell me a story about Jim. I said, what do you remember? At the funeral, my mother said he'd always been a gentle boy, and it was true. And Laura, whose stories always made me laugh, sobbed unexpectedly into my hair before flying back to Los Angeles. It must have been 2008 on a gritty August day. Laura sat on the desktop on the Crown Heights sidewalk. Back then, Laura and I always wound up kissing on Jim's balcony midway through every one of his posh parties, which reminded me of Mad Men. It may have been the cocktail shaker, the gin, or the stainless steel strainer. On my birthday, Jim took me to see Jill Sabul sing in a large dark piano bar with blue lights and velvet seat covers. And Laura met us at a bistro in the East Village with bronze ceiling tiles, and I drank wine and watched them banter, which I loved, and then he tucked me in a cab and paid the fare. Or maybe it's Fitzgerald's Winter Dreams, that middle-class boy eternally reaching for glittering things. He took me to a rooftop party in Borum Hill, the neighborhood where I foamed cream for people's lattes but could not afford to live. I don't remember the rooftop. Only the sidewalks in that part of Brooklyn are brick and dappled in sunlight, and the trees are sometimes big. We went for his friend, Olivia, who 10 years later would ship him a ventilator and oxygen. But that night, she was waiting for an ex named Hugh to take her home with him, and Jim wanted to be there if he didn't. At 4 a.m., this sandy-haired rascal in Nantucket red stumbled smirking onto the rooftop. I think, in fact, I'd heard him coming, shouting just to hear himself, down the block, up the steps, and onto the rooftop. Imagine waiting for that. Jim had brought a bottle of Sky vodka, which he stuffed in my bag on the way out. He lived in Harlem then, and so we took a cab to my apartment, and I said, Olivia is too good for Hugh, and Jim smiled at me and said, isn't he awful? That night we passed out in my twin bed, and he wrapped his arms around my waist, and I had not known he held people in his sleep, and I had not known he'd want to hold me. That morning when I arrived late to work, my boss, Patrick, took my bag from my shoulder and said, this is awfully heavy, Jess, and pulled out the bottle of Sky vodka, and we laughed at my surprise. Yeah. All right, and now I'm going to shift to a second section. On Saturday, in the morning's cool blue lassitude, we walked along abandoned sidewalks in search of coffee. We stopped at a park with wooden chairs facing west. My lungs, like parched gold wheat stalks, held the dry blue breeze, and the green trees and pink circles painted on the sides of breweries helped me to forget my stuttering heartbeat. 2 years had passed since I climbed the stairs to a hotel bed, my body disintegrating with each step, inside the room where everything was packaged in a whiteness that was crisp and anonymous. I folded up my blouse and dress, tucked away my comb and toothbrush, and to make it quick and easy for my family or whoever found me, I wheeled my black luggage into the unobtrusive armpit of a hotel room. and I laid my body on the bed, and I waited with the fervor of a bride but did not die. New York City glittered like a Christmas tree that winter. I believed death would gift me my mollified pain in white paper and twine. Hours went by. I laid my body on the bed. I waited, and death never came. My heart returned to 70, and I knew I would not die that day, but face 12 students and a university that paid so poorly. Dying looked like an opportunity. So I did not go back to Columbia University. The following day, I flew to Iowa City and Farwell, Airbnb'd my heart to a surgery. It should not take death to realize work will work you and watch you die, which is why it was unbearable to watch you that afternoon when the wave of exhaustion licking the heels of my heart caught up and I collapsed and watched from the sofa while a job that pays you poorly swallowed up another Saturday. At the Denver airport, the line curled around the escalator, around ground transportation, the luggage carts, the baggage belts, and if it could, it would curl around the Westin Hotel, conveniently linked to the airport by a corridor. You had pre-check and said you'd see me on the other side, and so I thought of death and our souls searching for each other in hell. I was hungry and felt somewhat demoralized. What if this line is identical to death? Is there a pre-check to make my life on Earth shorter? On the plane in Philly, we waited for some men in yellow vests to fix a broken panel. They looked at it, then left the plane. One returned 5 minutes later with duct tape. A woman across the aisle turned to me with wide eyes. The hotel in Providence looked just like a set in a Wes Anderson film. Behind the concierge are rows of tiny red boxes with a dangling key in each. The carpets are bright red, and the floors are checkered in black and white marble. There is a glut of patterns. The elevator is old-fashioned. It is lonely and sweet to move through your past without you. Over lunch, I asked whether you were always cold. Did you take the bus to Newport alone? Where did you live? You sat at a cafe outside our window years ago with Leslie Thornton for 3 hours, then walked her to the Amtrak. There's the train station, where you'd often wait. In the back of the restaurant, under the giant cone-shaped lights, you and Eli had your first date. Michael lives near Mona's old apartment. You are moving through your history, and I sit quietly in the back seat. Outside, the early East Coast fall waves with green and quivering leaves. The sidewalks are made of red brick, and they break around the roots of trees. In the afternoon, I sit in the Fine Arts Museum, nervously grading papers. I expect someone to tell me I cannot be there. There's a shiny blue painting on the far wall. It looks like globs of melted sugar dripping down its surface, or foam or cracked ice. It looks like the Arctic in winter seen from the sky. I stand and cross the room to read the placard. It's called Meltdown. It's made of oil paint, sugar, and gel wax. Upstairs, some girls laugh. It has been a long time since I sat and whispered with someone in a university building. I feel a fondness for these college girls who laugh a little, swallow some coffee, and continue reading. In the background, the art installation videos play. When I picture you here, you are alone. You don't drink coffee. You come in from the cold, and you cannot get warm. But you open your laptop and forget. You do not mind the sounds from the videos in the background. You've wrapped the remnants of some small edible thing left over from the night before in plastic and tucked it neatly in your bag. Somewhere in the same wintry landscape, Farwell, who has not saved your life yet, sits in class or takes a nap. I wonder whether Farwell studied sitting at a desk with a pencil in her hand or lying down in the grass or blanket. I wonder whether Farwell was surrounded by a group of like-minded friends, or whether, like you, she moved through the landscape alone. Somewhere there's a writing center, and you would hurry in, your face cold and your scarf covered in snow, and Christine would wait and close the window, and you would sit down and watch her read. In Philadelphia, under the string of lights in the canopy, I saw Calvino sitting, so stolid in the back row. Your posture possessed a tidiness, an elegance that is, as Mark Anthony Richardson said, bestilling. your shoulder angled over your lap and your arm crossed your chest, your wrist balanced on your knee, your face in profile looked intense. I felt the agony of Calvino's longing, witness to a distance he could not cross. In his place, I would not have come to your reading. I thought he is a masochist or a romantic. I watched his back recede up the sidewalk. He wore a blue-collared shirt. The outline of his hair was luminous under the light, and his face was tan and almost golden. I watched him leave, and I marveled at this, to come all the way to see you read and leave without saying hello. I touched your arm. I said V, and you turned and called his name up the street, and he stopped, and my breath stilled when he looked back, because that kind of longing makes someone hallucinate. He probably imagines you on 1,000 cities, on 1,000 streets, and now you're only yards away. And to turn is to compress a decade of daydreams into an instant, which is always a way of saying goodbye or practicing. And so it made sense what he did next. He waved and walked on. I thought he looked sad. Because of this, I waved at him. When his car pulled up alongside your Uber, you called out the open window, "Calvino, how are you?" And he answered, "I'm breathing." "Calvino," you called, and your smile was achingly beautiful, and I thought his face looked pained. And this is the final section I'm going to read. And thank you again all for coming out tonight. In Philadelphia, lying on the very high and very white hotel bed, I receive an email from my brother. Surprise, or subject. Oh no, I am dead. If you are getting this message, you have emailed me after my death, and I am speaking to you beyond the grave. How is life back on Earth? Heaven is lovely but boring. I can fly now, but Netflix here sucks, so basically it's an even trade. Glad I got in though. I almost didn't make it. Thank God I remembered to apologize and own up to my mistakes whenever I was wrong. That won me a lot of points. Death hack. You increase your chances of getting into heaven exponentially if you never tell anybody they're going to hell. But what really cinched it was never telling a sexual assault victim it was their own fault. Spoiler alert, it never is. I know because God says so. Also, God wants you to call your mother. Call your mother. All my love from the great beyond, James. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, and now we will hear from the Khi Nao. Give it up for V.
I'm gonna co-read part of my play with Jess. She's gonna, I guess, read. I'll be Oedipus and you have Abiondun. So there's two protagonists. I guess two characters in this from this passage, and is Oedipus and Abiondun. Jess will read from Abiondun and I'll read from Oedipus. Right. Zeus had a hard time keeping his hands to himself. Hera was attractive, and being the immortal that she is, she didn't even age. But Zeus,
Like Matt Lauer, was ambitious down there.
maybe too ambitious. At any rate, Hera got jealous and spoiler, Semele, the mortal, got pregnant.
And Hera hired the enigmatic Jessica Jones to investigate.
Well, no, she read too many versions of Beauty and the Beast, and it inspired her to befriend Semele by cloaking herself as an old, destitute woman carrying a red perennial rose.
She wasn't carrying any rose, let alone perennial.
Okay, fine, no rose.
So, to enact her revenge,
Semele spilled her guts to her new friend, telling Hera that what an amazing lover Zeus was, and how they were documenting their lovemaking session using Snapchat and Walala. One day at a vegan pizza party, and at the height of her curvaceous intolerability, Hera convinced gullible Samile to take their fucking to a new height.
Oh, Hera is so devious.
The patient that woman has, she rallies Samile. Samile, I think your lover is holding back. He could give you so much more. Do you want to fuck the Hulk or Bruce Banner? Do you want superhero sex or do you want normal Homo sapien sex?
That must have been a difficult choice.
Well, naturally, superhero big is better, right?
From the standpoint of sex,
What other standpoint is there? So to convince Zeus to fuck her in his unmasked form, Samilia whispered lustfully to Zeus, I find it so sexy when a man is completely naked with me. Won't you fuck my brains out in your raw, unhindered masculine form? Please, please?
well, did it work?
Maybe too well. After the third please, Zeus grew weak, but being the mortal that she was, her lack of experience with supernatural force in bed was telling. Samilia couldn't handle a prodigious intensity.
She figuratively exploded?
She literally blew it up.
From sex?
From trepidation, and she was scattered about in fragments. Strands of her hair here, her eyebrows there, her left torso down there, legs and arms tossed.
Having sex with Zeus was like stepping on a landmine.
For her, as his lover was dismantled in fleshly pieces, irreparable damage even for a god, Zeus realized he could save the child. He yanked and transplanted their unborn 6-month fetus from her womb and superglued the prenatal embiotic lump onto his thigh to keep the fetus alive. Thank you, Jasper. Okay, better. I'm going to read from excerpts from some of my other books and maybe a little bit from my collaboration with Jessica Alexander. So that was my play, Waiting for God. So I'm going to put some of this down. Okay, I'm going to read from my poetry collection called Fist Carcass, which came out 4 days ago. Yay! I'll read from Fist Carcass, the title itself. Fist Carcass, say hello to pork rind and arboreal rice, while Castaway Puree returns home to deconstruct wilted carrot from his butter and herb remnants. Fist Carcass says goodbye to a fight night between under-marinated onion slice and wasted Redbull kale amid a gun battle between grilled salmon and parita. Oh, this poem is too long. I'll pick something else. I ran out of breath. Let me pick something shorter. This one is called Abyss. Okay, this one is called Abyss. Walking her naked, they're walking her to the outer edge where water meets delirium. Where they toss her into the boat, they toss another naked man in with her before tossing him. They tell him, you may rape her now, brother. Of course he rapes her. But before then, in the dark, they roll in the boat in sand, where the two plunge sideways, tossing like rows of dice. His penis bounces against her body, like a stick against a drum. Before he rapes her, before they nail the lid of the boat like a coffin, they nail and nail and nail. They flip the boat so the hole is pressed, dug in sand, into sand. They keep on pounding away, pounding. She fears those nails may rape her, impale her to the edge of their dreams, to the edge of their violence, to the edge of his sunset, where she suffocates, where he suffocates, while still inside her, when the darkness transfixes her silhouette to a star, stamped at the bottom of her butthole. Her blood is a silhouette, a star, stillborn. Their violence is a hut lit on fire, to delineate, to find her mouth, which is the center of her volition. Anyway, that's this podcast. Okay. I'm going to read an excerpt from That Woman Could Be You. It took us 3 months to write this manuscript and a few months to edit it, and we sent it a few months ago and it got accepted, so it went by really fast. So this one called How Can Exist in Someone's Legs, and Tonight Those Legs Are Mine. On our light gray elongated sofa, we watched the Jaguars fall to the Jaguarian knees against the Bengals. I rooted for Joe Burrow, who came from the South and not from wealth. The last time Trevor Lawrence lost massively to Joe was when they played each other as Clemson versus LSU. I saw that game in my Vegas apartment after a Christmas holiday that left me sick for over a month. I lay in my honeycomb mattress and stared at Joe's arm on the projected screen of my ceiling. Joe decimated Trevor both times. It must be quite an adjustment for Trevor, who was 8-4 in high school and in college and is now 0-4 in the NFL. My father is losing his memory too. He'll drive on Burlington into downtown to take me to the library and then forget at the stoplight to turn left or right. I think the mind is like the galaxy, where things get expanded without our permission and wormholes appear where they shouldn't be. Our loved ones face intimate amnesia for us who are still alive. Amnesia doesn't dip its toes into the reservoir of memory. It's a privilege for white thinkers to think that wisdom is overrated, as often their acquired eventual wisdom arrives at the expense of colors, folks. I tell you this. In the elevator, I shifted the laundry in my arms to scan my fob, and I remember being in college. A key card jammed into my back pocket, and my arms full of books, and I'll lean my hip into the sensor, and I remember feeling casually cool. And this afternoon, I was thinking how back then my notion of coolness chiseled my diction and movement to something jagged, a body in a casual lean. We watched Tim Burton Batman, and I love how the Joker dances. Your sibling and you wish your mother a happy birthday over Zoom. She shared it with Jimmy Carter. You tell me she liked his policies. The blue jumper, the color of cerulean sea that you thoughtfully purchased for me one early Denver afternoon, remains in our closet. Anyway, so that's that. I'm going to read from my novel, Swimming with Dead Stars. It's a hard novel to read, so I don't always know how to read it. But I will read this part completely out of context to completely confuse you. So this is from page 112. Thank you for coming here. And thank you, Henry and Robert, for Rodrigo, for having us here. Okay. As he was decapitating the second Ghanaian's football cock with a serrated knife, Madone thought, yes, it is true. The universe was giving her what she wanted, to die. The surgeon was going to stop her heart, and for 3 hours or so, she could be a carcass with a soul that could be circumvented and circulated around her like a library book on an interlibrary loan. The heart-lung machine was like a river waiting for her. As the machine breathed for her, her blood would be Japanese tennis player Naomi Osaka, traveling up the length and width of the tennis court with those muscular thighs of her, bouncing the tennis ball for life, keeping it in court as long as possible. As soon as it exited the court, she would permanently be dead. She held the headless cock over the sink, its foriated blood spilling over as she studied the cock's lifeless form. Its head was in a strainer. Although she would never equate beheading a chicken with rearranging a bouquet of flowers on a vase, it felt like it. Trimming the veiny stems, seeing all the verdant leaves falling into the sink, and adding water to its soon-to-be deceased floral body in a glass vase. It was both messy and clean, taking life out of a life for biological or aesthetical consumption. It felt all too violent to Madone. Every aspect of life felt that way to her, including the art of dying. She dipped the headless body of the cock in boiling water to make the plucking more efficient. She loved how methodically efficient it was, the violence of its calmness, plucking the wet and post-steam feathers from the flaccid skin effortlessly, with the efficiency of her fingers and thumb as they worked in unity to move from one armpit section of the cock to the next. Madone felt as if her hand was designated to kiss the air with each plucking breath. Later, she rubbed Madone's salt onto the armpits and inner and outer thighs and inside the guts and organs and rib cages. Salting made the chicken less odious. Would they reciprocate her fatal affection? She turned her head over to where the shadow boxes were. Two were vacant, devoid from the decapitation and ingestion. Slowly, planet Neptune and Madone were making their way through emptying the shadow boxes of their shadows and replacing indifference with Darwinism. She imagined God carving the inside of each planet with a spoon and swallowing the contents of each domesticated celestial body as if he were a child enjoying each scoop of his half gaseous, half rocky ice cream. What she was doing with the chickens was quite similar, Madone thought. Do you think the meat was a bit tough? It was a little bit chewy, I think. When the afternoon had fallen asleep, Madone found herself reading a book by a Swiss psychoanalyst on the functions of the unconsciousness. In the midst of all of it, an email from Southwest arrived in her own inbox to inform her that her mother's 24 months were nearly over. If she didn't use her Southwest points in 2 months, she would lose them. She tried to sign into her mother's account to buy 2 tickets on some random days in September, but the system kept kicking her out. Enervated and frustrated, she called her mother for assistance. Could you call the airline and ask them to buy these tickets on your behalf for me so we can save these points? Sure. Request the month of September from Sue 890 to Denver. It is the only month where you can maximize the points you can save. Anything else? Don't buy it for the month of June and July. Why? It is because you traveled to Tokyo, Mother. Right. Anyway, I would read more, but I'm a little tired. We have books for sale. Please grab them so that we won't have to carry them with us. Thank you.
Thank you, V and Jessica, very much for that wonderful reading. For all our microphone incompetence, myself foremost. The practice and legacy of commitment literature, the idea of the artist's responsibility to society, especially as elucidated by Jean-Paul Sartre, littérature engagée, namely that people existentially define themselves by consciously engaging willed action, has by now quite a long and traceable history. In the last century, poets from all over the globe both battled the material limits of the societies they lived in, while at the same time battling the strictures of alignment art itself. The dual struggle can easily be detected in poets as diverse as Hughes, Dalton, Anzaldúa, Mayakovsky, Rich, Shange, Baraka, Hirschman, and Sanchez, etc. Each one of them had to confront poetic functionalism within their ranks, on this side of the barricade, so to speak, and clear the deadwood, replacing it with new flora, new fauna, that is, vital poetry. After reading Quess's poetry for weeks now, I can confidently say that the tradition lives on in Quess, but in so many ways that tradition has moved on, like way on. So many of the pieces in Quess's oeuvre strike me as pop-outs from dramas. They feel like it, torqued up soliloquies that capture the contradictions embedded in every proposition. It's heavy on the breaking of blind faiths, but even heavier on finding a path of thought, feeling in a post-faith landscape. It's existential to the core. I find no poems that don't arise out of some kind of stripped, raw state of mind. I think of Brecht's poem, The Doubter, in which Brecht is taking stock of his own practice, but with an eye on challenging future generations. Here's a few goading lines from that poem, as I'm thinking simultaneously of the challenges that Quess poses for me. Do you attend to the truth of what you said, whether it is not ambiguous, for you are responsible for every possible error, or it may be too unambiguous and remove the contradictions from things? Is it too unambiguous? For if so, what you say is useless. Your thing is lifeless then. Are you truly in the flow of things, at one with everything that is becoming? Are you still becoming? Who are you? To whom do you speak? To whom is what you have to say of use? That was Brecht. All of these quandaries, which should sink 1,000 poetic ships, Quess's poetics handles handily, and with humor, sadness, anger, perplexity, consistent curiosity, and most of all, a consistent being there, bearing the burden as to how to begin to say anything at all. Quess straddles the barrier between being and non-being by way of a maximum suspension between the poems, with a flow between the poems, makes for a music that is at the same time grave and elevating. Scribe Called Quess, a.k.a. Michael Quess Moore, is a poet, educator, actor, playwright, activist, and organizer. He's a two-time National Poetry Slam champion and founding member of Team SNO, Slam New Orleans. New Orleans' three-time National Poetry Slam championship team. His work as an educator has been highlighted on NPR in the Voices of Educators series, as well as taken him to Oxford University to speak on school reform. As a theater maker, he has written for and acted in plays with Junebug Productions, Art Spot Productions. He debuted his one-man show Sleeper Cell in the fall of 2017 at the Fringe Festival. As an activist, he co-founded Take 'Em Down NOLA in 2015, a coalition dedicated to the removal of white supremacist symbols in New Orleans as part of a greater push for racial and socioeconomic justice. For his activism, he earned the 2017 Urban League Courage Award, was featured in the New York Times, The Republic, Trinidad and Tobago's Kwame Ture Lecture Series. Please welcome Quess.
Gentrification in 5 parts. A play on the senses. What smells like lemon pledge and bologna, mixed with a dash of gutter puff. Sounds like a churning coffee bean grinder set to a backdrop of new construction. Can't tell the difference between the grind outside and the grind inside. Sounds like number 9. Your cappuccino vanilla mocha urban says on a Cypress Hill latte is done. And sorry, man, but we don't have any vacancies for occupants of 3 or more. Looks like a boarded up home in disrepair next to a newly refurbished one, fresh coat of paint still glistening. Looks like a rigid white girl's jawbones and her pet pit bull snarl. Like a band of scraggly headed hopefuls riding bikes 10 feet in the air past a wrinkled old brown woman on her porch. Looks like the look in that woman's eyes would have sworn she'd just seen an alien ship. Looks like the look the hopefuls on bikes never give the word aloof. You campaign for a picture in the dictionary. We'll put a Nikon 360 camera on those kids. Tastes like nothing. It's somehow still familiar, like your grandma's favorite recipe, but she forgot all the seasoning. Too much everything you ever asked for when you got it, and he multiplied to you like a cappuccino going to go to the Saterstrom latte with a side of kale. Feels like an eerie sense of something ain't quite right, but how do I put my finger on it when it keeps slipping from my grasp? How identify when it keeps disappearing like a floorboard, slipped from beneath your feet? Then the whole room. Then the whole house, and all of a sudden, brand new floorboard, brand new house, but no more you. Feels like a slow burn that only melts all your skin off 10 years after the fact, like colonization in a latex club. Like, I think I'm getting fucked, but I'm not quite sure. It feels like never getting to come out the kitchen when company comes. Like, been working in the kitchen my whole life, and they just up and hired a whole new staff out the blue, just like that. Told my recipes ain't good here no more. Told me the restaurant patrons don't like my ingredients. Said it wasn't cappuccino, but them goes to the Cypress Hill latte with a side of kale enough. Told me they got some new cooks now. But I could always go shop and apply at the store around the corner. Only, well, no, shop around the corner told me, nice job, Uncle Ben, anime. We sure do appreciate your service. Just not needed around here anymore, but leave your kids. Your kids can stay. You've got a nice, shiny new building to teach them in where they can learn all about our predecessors like Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus. So one day, when they grow up, they may not always know when we're going to show up, but they'll always know us when we get here. How y'all doing Saturday? How y'all doing? Thank you for an amazing intro. Yeah, never been introduced like that before. Let's talk later on. I need a publicist. That's what I was gonna say. What's up, man? You have something to say?
No. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so I am going to give y'all a bunch of stuff I've been scribbling over the last couple of years. That was from my last book. It's kind of old, but ain't got no dust on it yet. It's called Sleeper Cell. Like you said, the one-man show I did that was a long time ago too. Everything feels like post and you know what I'm saying, BC as in before COVID. So all this is BC before COVID, but I'm gonna give you one more from this, and after that, I'm just reading from my phone like the good millennial, which I have not, but yeah. Speaking of Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus, I'm gonna tell y'all a little story real quick. He mentioned I was one of the organizers in taking down NOLA. Before that movement started, just one of those beautiful art imitating life moments. I had this found poem of a situation, and a found poem is when you just walk into the reality that just like, the fuck is this? And you just gotta sit down and write it down, and there it goes. At least it gave you some poetry. So yeah, this happened before we started doing that particular work, but it kind of forecasted that for me. I was touring the Texas State Capitol. It's 2014. It's the Woman in the World Poetry Slam, off day. I go up the block, we're in Austin. Beautiful city, by the way, but like everything else in the South and almost everything in America, fuck ass racist shit. So, touring the Texas State Capitol. My small brown body was cast against the canvas of tall white coliseums and things, was reaching back centuries. I'm dwarfing in the bleached shadows of their history. With small brown bodies like mine, with minor details in a portrait of American destiny manifest only in the margins, is footnotes on the pages of recorded history, but right now. Right now, my thoughts are of Brianna. Brianna of light Latina hue and American college girl humor. She is a walking library of white supremacist mythology trapped in a mausoleum of mestizo skin. Brianna. knowledgeable tour guide who just walks some 30 visitors through the pristine halls of the state capitol. The jokes they glint off of her tongue with irony, her commentary. It clashes with her culture as she speaks of Texas history in a possessive. We were defeated in the Battle of the Alamo in 1836, she says. We rallied back 6 weeks later and won the Battle of San Jacinto, thereby founding the great state of Texas. She continues. And I keep trying to figure out how she managed to fit all her light brown me inside of all that western white we, how she can so easily mix memories of moccasin shoe mamas beneath the steel toes and steers of Lone Star boots now walking across the marble floors of her oppressor's history as she speaks. There's a festival going on the front lawn of the Capitol. Her voice struggles to be heard above the booming bass lines of reggaeton rhythms blaring from the speakers outside. And I can't help but wonder if the cognitive dissonance inside her head doesn't blare just as loudly. There are women, many of them of Brianna's hue, dancing to her people's music. I think they're doing Zumba or the Macarena or something that English words fail to do justice. And I'm struggling to see how she fails to see the injustice in the story she's been paid to propagate. And can she hear her ancestors' rebuttal thumping through the drums of the echo through the halls of the Texas state capitol? Brianna, can you hear your ancestors calling? At the end of the tour, an elderly white woman asked Brianna, what does the word Texas mean? And she quickly replies, it's a Caddo Indian word for friendship. And I immediately want to look up the word friendship and see if there's anything I missed. Perhaps there are etymological references to blood-splattered chieftains and trails of tears. Maybe these are key ingredients to lifelong bonds and I'm the oblivious one. Or maybe Texas, like Louisiana, like America, like all of the western wide world is just a really fucked up friend. The kind of vice grips your bones and its handshake until your bones are ground to dust and the remains are left to mix with the blood and sweat of capital gains to form the watered down colors that they use to paint the monuments to their greatness. They'll shade you into their shadows, etch your name into the edges of their borders as footnote, loser of the battle, vanquished, full-term mascot, misguided tour guide through the halls of another man's history, never his foundation, is keeper of this land before a hostile takeover, is blood rights to this ground before oil rape Texas. If you are friendship, then what do I call my enemies?
Yes.
I want to say a capital yes to that yes, and shouts out to whoever said that. As was mentioned, I'm from the slam poetry world. I'm very turned down right now. I've been teaching some high schoolers all year, and that tells you everything. Hopefully, if you know anything about that struggle. So I'm tired. I was in a nap, and then I woke up. I was like, oh shit, let me come up the street and do some poems. And yeah, so usually I'll be way more turned than this, and I would require the yeses. I would solicit them. I would shamelessly ask for them. But right now, I'm gonna just say yes to that. And if y'all want to give me some of that, because I'm about to be reading like a millennial. And you know, if you're feeling something, you can snap. That's what we do, right? If you're really feeling it, but you don't want to, interrupt the flow, you can just like rub your hands together. Let's get a little model on that real quick. I want to feel like I'm back in the days, doing the Team SNO thing. All right, yes, thank you. We call that a little friction for addiction. I'll be spitting some words that you might want to hear, so you can rub your hands. And if you're really feeling it, we usually say something like church, right? Tabernacle. In the spoken word and black poetry tradition, but you can definitely say yes. So let me get both of those on the count of three. I'm gonna get a church first, and we're gonna give that's a new thing. You taking that? All right. So church, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm not gonna do the poem for tonight. My grandmother was mother of the church. Baptist church, that's the tradition I come from. I'm talking about, sound like you got some, I was a Catholic city and all that. I got a lot of Catholics in my family too. But we're gonna act like you Baptists tonight. Y'all gonna give me some church. I heard church. Hey, we're not taking communion. I want y'all to turn up just a little bit for me, all right? I ain't been getting out in the last 2 years. I've been in my house, I've been teaching. I need a little love and energy. 1, 2, 3, let me hear that like you grew up in a black Baptist church. 1, 2, 3. Church! Oh, yeah, okay, I'm feeling it. All right, and then one more again for that. Yes. Whatever octave or pitch you need for that. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Yeah, we cooking now, baby. All right. I'm gonna just like do this every time I start a new poem, and I'm gonna say the title of it. But I got y'all alternative. I'm really about to do some library shit. So I see balance. I believe it. Hard. They tried to convince us that hardness equaled bravery, as though the concrete didn't find its roots in the soft clay. We found roots deeper still in the wet mud, and we children of old earth, born color of soil, come to know toil like second skin, turn bleached stone in our raggedly aged state, some of us thinking we fancy, twinkle and glisten like shiny metal in a dying sun's twilight, dream of becoming machines, greater than the ones we've been harnessed to. 10. Tenements. The next 2 poems are about different ages in my life. They're a name and then a parenthetical insert might make more sense on the page, so just you can imagine this journey. 10. Tenements. The year Gary's lips turned from pink to black and the lights turned out in his eyes, his smile turned smirk, turned eviction notice, telling me where I was no longer welcome. After that, I started watching all my friends' faces to make sure there was still somebody home. But I secretly wanted to become a foreclosed tenement, to expel everything from me before it ever had a chance to leave, to turn hard and menacing as the brick and mortar everyone was scared to enter. All right. Okay, one more. 14, time bomb. When I'm 14, after a year of house arrest, my mother tells me I still sound like the time bomb ticking. I do not tell her that I cannot recall or where nor when my heart was not metronome for the fears programmed in it, how the fear is electric. The very currency that my body runs off got me wired all funny. What she calls nervous system, I call a jumble of tangled cords, misinterpreting messages sent to it. I do not tell her how easy it is to push someone's buttons when they are mechanized into a weapon designed to go off, how easy it is to make them blow up when they're running off voltage volatile is mine, with emotions too explosive to release peacefully, how even my calm be battery acid gestating beneath my tongue, how I cut off speech like a snipped wire for fear of what explosions my mouth may birth, close my eyes to dream a self not manufactured into a tool of destruction, how even then I can hear my heart ticking. To the thing I must let go of. Maybe I met you under my first football helmet, or perhaps you were the bald fist that swung into my bird chest like a wrecking ball at 8, first from Dad, then his frat brothers. Or maybe you were Mr. T, pitying the fool, or some nameless black male menace filling out the usual suspect silhouette on the 6 o'clock evening news, then broadcasting your fear-fueled fantasy into my dreams until I became you. And I spent my whole adulthood trying to turn you out. But that shit is hard as bricks stuck together, being pried apart by your own bare hands. I mean, it's literally hard undoing the mortar that binds you to tradition. Granddaddy said, more men need more than one woman. Daddy said, I can't stop looking at it till I put my dick in. New York said, there's a war going on outside, no man is safe from. New Orleans said, fuck that nigga, pussy ass nigga. And I said, nothing. I listened, as young boys do, and learned the ways and grew thick but fragile skin I'm still trying to shed to this day. On the flames in my bones and how they got there. Here's the part where we pull out our war stories and tales of survival. Say, I too have known the crawl space beneath safety and the wanting ground heaving hungry from below. The part where I tell you of me and my brother and my best friend at 17 and my mom's caravan riding up Canal Street in teenage black boy joy before it even had that name. Till 4 unmarked cars surround us like wanted revolutionaries, like political dissidents or preyed upon stars, and our names ain't even Salvador or JFK or Tupac. So we can't make heads or tails of why we're looking down the barrel of a Glock 9 as one white man says, get the fuck out the car. And the other barrage of white faces formerly suited for battle spotted with just one not-so-fly boy in their putrid buttermilk, descend on our young frames, shove us to the ground in cuffs as they step on our backs like we the street itself. And once the identification of the usual suspect reveals itself as mistaken, they release us back to our lives and tell us we're lucky it wasn't worse. Here's the part where I remember my mother in my passenger seat after the fat white man in sheriff blues struts away from our car like he just finished a good steak, his shoulders belching the arrogant fog of a man who just consumed a slain meat. And after the 20-minute stop off the interstate, Moms understands every morsel of rage coated my skin since 13 when my daddy died. And my girlfriend in my passenger seat off Basin Street, her frame heaving like barely escaped prey when the overzealous white man in uniform exits, his face from hovering over hers, having just yanked her door open, shoulders cased in bulletproof, stilly blue-eyed joy cased in flinch just right so I can attack just so, as he stares at me, telling me how this checkpoint is all for our good, to keep folks safe from some nearby danger. But there are too many stories at this point, and none of them matter others than the way they dissolve prematurely like fossils rushed into fuel to fire my today, my tomorrow, and our forever war on this planet where we hurry the mending of old wounds in preparation for the inevitable ones, salivating to replace them. My scars are hungry mouths carved into my left arm, my right fist, my fractured psyche. They all say patriarchy's bastard son and white supremacy's dark shadow. They say capital in the belief they're in schizophrenic clapback. They all say privatized property turned human fights back, closes an angry door and bars entry forever, opens windows only for a glimpse at light, a release of the flames, marinating in marrow. Black thoughts of a middle class comeuppance, but then wary, lest you be lassoed to the hood, boy. Be noosed back to the wretched limbs of your family tree, lest all you try ghosting come back, haunt your happy home, creep up your children's spines like that crackhead did your mama's fire escape that one night in Brooklyn. Just a vagrant truth looking to be fed, might set flame in their hearts, turn a kitchen and whip their bloodline like it's stir fry, leave embers in their throat, turn a mouth trap house till they open it and you get all the smoke. Got a whole gang of ancestors and tar babies blackening their speech, tap dancing and war chanting on their teeth. Got a little Harriet in there, little CLR with a splash of Garvey, little Rodney, Huey, and Sabrina with a pinch of Pookie for good measure, some Sambo and Hambone up in there too, yeah. While you steady talking Colgate and Ivy League dreams, talking family crest and crease your bleach too smile for preemptive palatability and with precious pomp and circumstance of the pallid people, talking enunciate, talking tall king from Tarking, talking blood and dust brushed off battle world shoulders, talking son, take these rocks, I handled the boulders, never mind the mountain you never should have had to climb in the first place, just a peak at a false summit, glimpse a shimmer of a charade, to know the Sisyphean slide back into the bowels of all you ran from, when the towers topple, when solid, stolid ivory turns fumbling chalk, when it all falls down. These are my weird poems, so thank you for some of these might need a disclaimer. On trying to save my brothers from capitalism. Ask me what I know of capitalism, and I will see you the bolting body of my father, charging at his own, watching another Sunday morning episode of Meet the Press, retitled, The Sons Must Slay the Fathers. He, all raging bulls, seeking ghosted matadors, all writhing, tortured commodity, wrangling with the TV's glows and echoes, wrapping a straitjacket round him. Not far from the twisted limbs from whence I fell, I be, bruised apple in a garden of heathens, hoping the right vessel will partake. This is my flesh, which I have, bite marks on my face, carving permanent scowls at my father's makers. Our cursed screams every day, to tell them they are not my God. In this amphitheater of the depraved, behind the technicolor shadows, the walls are lined in acid, remnants of your distant kin, poking their undigested limbs through, peekaboo, boogeyman, and inconvenient truth, amidst wars and rumors thereof. Pile up your stock, opt in for the shillings shaved off distant skin, thinking me in myopic mind like a face in the mirror looking back at no face. Your gone eyes not noticing, your gone nose, your half-gone ears, my mouth trying not to singe to ash the fragile air between us, molds the once molten, hoping to wield a word, to carve entry through the fortress our fathers left between us. Okay. That was the weirdest one of the night, so hopefully you got something out of that. Yeah. I'm trying to save my brothers from capitalism. That's what I'm saying.
Woo! Yeah.
And then another old white man is another old white man. Black boy reaches, open palms to the blue, sky behind his eyes. From it dangles a body aflame, feet kicking beneath his pupils, hovering just above his mouth. A Vermont landscape, syllables snipped and kempt as, suburban lawns on, tamed tongues pasture, passions pasteurized to be made palatable for, pomp and circumstance in the house of the privileged. Stilted on spine and femur of, black grandma's grandma's grandma, galvanized the bones when, skinless pink-faced man say, from New Orleans, huh? You live in a dangerous neighborhood? Black boy all eager, good sport in Hunger Games, not knowing he pray, says, it's New Orleans. What neighborhood ain't dangerous? Laughter from the skinless pink-faced man. Laughter from the ghost pale college kids tending the bar. As if to suggest, pour me another, skinless pink-faced man say, you teaching a poor and shitty school? What you gonna do about that poor and shitty school, huh, Quess? More pale laughter spills, their cup runneth over. Black boy lips sealed like casket, feet flail behind his eyes, embers rain down, tongue all smoke and ash. I got a few of these, so you let me know time, and y'all don't have to clap at all. I appreciate it. Okay, here we go. The sound of weapons being formed. And they kept asking why all our poems sounded the same, while all our words wrapped themselves around race and gender, oppression and revolution like there was nothing else. While the threads of our tropes wove themselves into ropes, knotted nooses fastened around the solar necks of guilty men. While our voices clang from microphones like heavy metal against rock, the heat in our throats, the smoldering cinder in a welder's lab. Metaphors melding worlds of pain unknown to them, so our anger be alloy of both black and poor, poor and queer, queer and woman, woman and trans, all things spewed hot and rich from the earth, born unrich and unwhite. We be lava's offspring, condemned by time and struggle into things rock hard and impenetrable, broken by struggle and melted by time into all things fluid, malleable, wielded by words into weapons too hard for you to fuck with. So now, we something like tools of battle, similarly slicing through mid-air like swords built for this is funny. All that whiteness knows of war seems like they know the sound of weapons being formed, of distant armies gathering, of infantries collecting like karmic debt at your front door. Open palms. And the closed black fist said, what kind of man opens himself up to the hands that bound his ancestors and everything that stole their breath? The noose, the muzzle, the iron chain. And the man who dreamt all colors melded to one said, how well can the palms breathe forever sealed in the closure of warfare? Said, what is closed cannot grow. Said, there is power in vulnerability and casting your lot to the open sea and risking drowning for the sake of learning to navigate traveled waters, open palms, slapping at the waves, though they may be. Black to Africa. I imagine the heat holds something for me in the ground, a violence, a love so thick, so worn, it make you feel safe like your favorite t-shirt with the holes in it that you wore as a young boy, or the plush arms of your grandma's couch. Bet the smiles hold you like grandma's living room. Bet the eyes be like glowing ellipses, leading you back to a series of broken life sentences you've been inadvertently rewording your whole life. Bet it be like your whole life reduced to a seashell, pregnant with an ocean of ancestral echoes, chambering your heart into a concert hall of palpitations. Bet the ocean make its way through your eyes too. Yeah. Bet you find out what you really made of. See yourself looking black at you a million times over till you baptize in yourself, till you washed black and brown and drum and calabash clean. Maybe a scarred glare holds distance, wide as the Atlantic Ocean. Maybe a quick tongue holds hustle, fast as depleting oil stocks. May I remember the art of polishing a smudged reflection, of finding myself amidst the shards of a broken mirror. That's me imagining myself back in Africa. I've never been, but working on it. This is real life in Colombia. This is a beautiful experience. It's called As the Blackboard Jet Skis. It's the lilt and lift of the machine, small reaches at flight, scratching at the impossible. It's the waves beneath, buoying the black boy towards heights and speeds unknown, that make fear a small fish, swallowed by the ocean of wonder before him. It's the venture along Caribbean coast like he's some sort of pirate, but in this tale, no one's here to kill the natives and loot their treasure trove. In this version, Black Boy is the gold, stolen back by his own hands and returned home. And home be any land rich with the glow of folk-colored fertile soil to soft clay, screaming, "Bien aquí, amigo," at the sight of him. It's the turn of the machine, swaying with his body like a mechanical horse of the ocean, a sea horse, bending to his whims, like them big blue flying creatures in Avatar. It's the black boy swaying to the ocean's waves in kind, returned to Mommy Wata like prodigal son, yielding to the mighty hand of her ebb, buoyed to power by the gentle push of her flow. It's wondering where that myth about black folk and water ever even came from. And ain't we been here before that? Digress. It's remembering and forgetting. All right, I got like 3 more poems for y'all. Thank y'all for listening, indulging me. It's just about to get a little weird, just a little strange. Thank y'all for being here for the whole ride. This is my first live reading since COVID, so this is my first AC reading. So yeah, thank y'all. Give it up for yourself for giving me this space to share my weird thoughts. I think I'll just flow through these last 3, so just a little disclaimer, no, not disclaimer, precursor, whatever, prelude, you know what I'm saying, whatever the fuck it's called. The last poem is from a movie I did called Many Fires This Time. So I was very fortunate and blessed and privileged to be able to spend at least the majority, really, of this whole quarantine at home working on this movie with communities that I've been working with around the country. It is a poetic docudrama about basically the 100 million at the time when we started it. Now it's like probably 150 million Americans living beneath the poverty line or in economic insecurity. So it's me and those communities from here to Oakland, Chicago, Kentucky, just talking our talk and telling our stories. We debuted that in April 2021, so we're about to make a year. We're still doing a little film fest hustle. And this is perfect timing because tomorrow we're gonna probably have what might be the last screening in New Orleans until we hopefully go big and all that, you know what I'm saying, make it crazy. But it's going to be a Cafe Istanbul up the street at 2 o'clock if y'all are interested. And the last poem we're doing is from that movie, so yeah, wait for it. Also, got books for sale, you know what I'm saying? Support a brother so I can quit my job, thank you. Love the kids and all that, but love my dreams more. Speaking of dreams, and I don't have nightmares anymore, but there are still dreams that greet you with, my father wasn't afraid of the Shogun, but the Shogun was afraid of my father, type vibes. It's a Jizzle reference if y'all ain't never heard that album. Check that out. Jizzle from Wu-Tang. Switches continents, anime skate, mourn the loss of the girl, till sorrow is a puddle you cannot splash. Switches continents, anime skate, mourn the loss of the girl, till sorrow is a puddle you can't not splash in, till a puddle is a lake that drowns sleep. The dream within the dream, an aqueduct. Scrape the inner linings of caved mares for meaning. The girl, a slaughtered lamb for the sake of the young warriors in training. Her severed head penance for the collective gain. A testimony to the dangers of slacking. You all heavy with the marking of her. Absence molding a paperweight in your throat. Thinking, when I wake from waking from this, I've got to get this down. Wake from this, to your mother looming phantom over your mouth, counting your breaths. And sometimes the air is the prophet simply for letting itself be breathed. Mom zooms off all headless chicken raging in the echo chamber of the impending machine. Yeah, because you think you're doing it all and they still get you. Sleep, being death's cousin and all, accomplice to late mortgage payments, camera tickets, suspended license for that yellow light 3 years ago. Who knows for whom the bill's told? It was Malcolm X's birthday yesterday. Speaking of chickens coming home to roost. You saw a row of them in Beijing once. Chickens, that is. All packed tight, ready for slaughter. All sick-eyed and violent with the reverb of their siblings' corpses rattling in the impending death machine. The look on their faces made you understand thugs more. Though your mother never liked them much. Nor you when you was one. A thug, that is. Never saw them as fellow nuts bolted to a machine not of either of their making, used to yank them off the stoop to save them from the furnace's belly or toss them in it. Not sure. Tried to save you from your sleep, she did, from the dream within the dream. Came back from clucking round the house, rousing your brothers to rise. Held the tempest under her tongue as she nudged you. Wake, and she's a willow in a white blouse. Willow turned aged oak with gnarled bark face, limbs poking at you with the fury of time that knows better. You all man-child mumbling a vomit of apologies, puddling under your tongue. Awake from all dreams, all sorries breaking, awake from all dreams, all sorries breaking over clenched lips and swollen throat. I got up early today, had to get this down before the grind made me one of its gears. Had dreams to catch and bills to pay. The wind and the water, that was the weirdest one, my bad, y'all. I forget. The wind and the water take selfies in my mirror. A meditation on 2020. Pardon the ribbons on my face, but I've seen too many close into earth without their insides ever seeing the light of day. What say you when your lover's womb is the middle passage the ancestors never make their way through? When spirits are thrown overboard before they ever reach shore? Lines under my eyes, all silt and sink. Every poet's words about motherland or sea crossing was a holy hand of nature. Was Oya's breath whispering gales of the decades-old levees behind my eyes, watched parts of me crumble into an ocean wide as God's mouth that year. Watched infinity pick its teeth with my little traumas. Marathon got a little brisk thinking no one's waiting for me at the finish line, but learned how to pat them thighs and firm up the hind parts regardless. Of course my masculinity's fragile, I said to everyone in particular. It ain't shit but water and sand grown old. Tried a fresh new look last year and the water had its way with me. Got beached whales on my cheeks the shape of my daddy's last night and the night she said it's over. At least I got timestamps for my grief run its course. My old self passed on a baton last year. Said the sack of bricks can die with him. I'm trying to adjust to the weight loss. Something about feeling light as a feather makes me feel naked and afraid of heights at the same damn time. Yeah, sure, it was me the whole time, I said, to everyone in particular. Poetry is therapy sessions, public performance, or service announcement. Take your pick. Everyone's invited. This avalanche slowly is brought to you by sporous sickness gone viral, meets another snuff tape gone the same, meets mildew around the yellow edges of one sacrosanct paper holding the pictures of dead old white man, meets the chained and bound descendants of the chained and bound, locked in the belly of a beast packed tight as undigested food and a raging sea rising with the ferment of ancestors gone too soon. Which brings me back to that levee behind my eyes. It never stood a chance, nor some of my best laid plans. This year's resolutions are small fish, blurred beneath the rivers falling from my face. I can almost see clearly now. My face is the beach after the storm. Best laid plans, all karmic driftwood mixed with toppled infrastructure. Ego is a house meant to be broken. Which way from here? I asked everything in particular. The wind said, follow the water. Last piece, this is called Fluid Tension. There's a fluid phantom at our feet, whispering of things to come. The city is a sinking ship, like all the world. Sinkholes carved in the hull of this vessel, glimpsing at impending worlds below. How much longer can we float? Wetlands fading beneath us like a black boy's tapered edges, like his granddaddy's hairline, like a Kentucky mountaintop. Say the whole world coming full circle. Say we becoming ourselves. Say we're going to be what we made of before we know it. Say the human body is 60% water. The planet, home to 7 billion human bodies, is 71% water. Say the apple don't fall far from the tree. The plankton don't crawl far from the sea. We, land dwellers, be mostly at home in society's riverine, come hearkening back to our aquatic beginnings like babes to the teat of mommy Watson that birthed us, gorging ourselves on our very source, and we all we eat. So you don't eat, you don't work, you don't work, you don't eat. But what happens when the fruit of your labor is a harvest of rot, is a gross yield of corpses, when the land is a body broken at the hands of capitalist greed and the soil we toil, seep sickness in a river run red with the blood of the living. When the water tries to tell us its story, it chokes on itself. Can't speak beyond the uranium in its lungs, the sewage in its gut tries crooning a blues about the lead in its belly through its oil heavy throat, but just gargles up a blackened mumble about the cadavers on its tongue, smothered in saran wrap, and we drink this water, and we speak this water, and we are this water, this sick body trying to heal itself and envision a horizon beyond all this infirmary, but can't see beyond the floodlines, and our eyes leak water at the sight of lost loved ones whose bodies held too much of what the water did. Ask the San Juan River about Navajo cancer rates in Arizona. Ask a grandmother in Flint how much working class sweat it take to fill a number 2 pencil. Ask a mother in Rawls in 3 jobs how many pencils it take to master lead in her son's brain. Can you bubble in the answers to the test with telekinesis? Ask the asshole in this country what he got to say to the mouth, and through oil-rigged teeth, Louisiana told Michigan we the same shit, just different toilet and texture. Ask an aquifer in Lake Michigan what it's like to mount to, and it say, ask Nestle. Nestle say, the water gives freely, but for you, at a cost. The darker the skin, the higher the premium. Black Lives Matter and such. Ask 10,000 black homes in Detroit the price of they dried up pipelines in a pandemic, at least the cost of our skins, they say. Ask the broken land what the endless sea costs. The Gulf Coast say, see my cracked jaw and receding hairline. Florida opens its mouth, a banshee unleashed, all blackened gums and muted screams. 1.4 billion of receipts fall out. Say, see 25,000 sinkholes in 10 years. See 27 purchased politicians dangling from dollar sign nooses. See the ground pummel back into its source, the land, a cracked jaw threatening to swallow us whole. Watch it sink like falling stock and employment rates under depression. Watch sorrow fill the streets, the skies as bravado enrages. The sea rises like a people tired of the weight on their backs sprouting wings. Feathered by the water, protecting keepers of this land, the world's on fire, they say. Whisper beneath the ground, say, don't worry. The water's coming. The people too. Thank y'all.
All right, Scribe Press. Jessica and V. Don't forget, y'all, we have books here from all of the authors. And the very next event that the Splice is going to host in conjunction with Tilted House is on Thursday, the 21st. That's the last day of the New Orleans Poetry Festival. I'm sorry, the first day of the New Orleans Poetry Festival, and that runs to the 24th. That's going to be at 7 p.m. here at the Saturn Bar. And it's going to be a locals night for the festival. We're going to have Charisma Price. We're going to have Tay V. Smith. We're going to have Splice's own Henry Goldkamp and Daniel W.K. Lee. So we hope to see you for that. And also mark on your calendars, if you can, the next regular Splice reading is going to be on Saturday, May the 21st. And we're going to have Roberto Tejada from Texas coming in. And local Lauren Burgess. So we hope to see you for that. And thank you all for making the Splice happen for us. Thank you. Yeah.